the Lions for wide receiver Golden Tate. Asked why he traded for a guy in the last year of his deal, Eagles GM Howie Roseman said he's one of the most productive receivers in the league and that his run after catch numbers are phenomenal. Coach, what impact could Tate have on this Philadelphia Eagles offense?
Yeah, first of all, that pumpkin wipe was amazing.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Just went right across the screen. We're very good. You saw that again?
I mean, we've been throwing wipes across the screen
for
all
years.
morning. It's impressive.
That and our lighting, our soft lighting.
The soft lighting and the pumpkin wipes.
Yeah, I know that.
So, I think that this was my favorite of the moves that were made, and to me, this is. We talked about how rare it is to get a quality player at this point in the season to be able to fill a need, and then you get a guy that fits that system as well as Golden Tate does. It's a run after the catch offense. This is a run after the catch player. This is a guy that has been extremely productive on third down. He's already got 15 third down conversions. I think the next highest guy on the Eagles is 10. And what's been the problem? Finishing games. Finishing games has been the problem. This guy Golden Tate allows them the opportunity to get some of those third downs that they haven't been getting and be able to finish the games. And that was a real strength of the Eagles last year and hasn't been as much of a strength this season. I thought this was a really good move.
Listen, there is no denying that the Eagles just got better, and to your point, they added at their weak point, which is, even though it's supposed to be a run-after-catch system, they're bottom 6 in the league in yards after catch by wide receivers. They haven't been effective at executing that. The single best statistically run-after-catch receiver in football. Like, that's who Golden Tate has been over the course of his career, particularly the last few years. So they added to, much like the Rams needed an edge rusher, the Eagles needed a receiver that had this skill set, and they added it. And they also understood that, man, it is not going to get easier for us the second half of the season. We not only have 5 divisional games, our non-divisional games are the Rams, the Saints, and the Texans. Like, there are no games on their schedule you look at and say, oh, okay, just chalk it up to a win. So, and they have a lot of ground to make up. They're 4-4, Washington's 5-2. So for all those reasons, I like what it does for them tangibly. Intangibly, I like that for the players in the locker room, it lets them know we are not giving in on the season. We are doing much like we did last year, even though we were better at this point last year. We're adding. We're sacrificing potential future picks like we did with Jay Ajayi, like we did in the Jay Ajayi trade, to add to our team this season. This, to me, was the most impactful move any team made at the deadline yesterday.
Was their offense their biggest need for the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, we talked so much about them needing some help in the secondary, a little bit on the defense. You look at this wide receiving core. Is that where they really needed the most?
I think Howie Roseman and the staff looked at the team, and there's several holes. One being corner. They could use some cornerback help. Now, they got some younger corners. It's just a matter of which side are we going to try to have some patience with? And because of Mike Wallace's injury, he's probably on injured reserve. He's probably not going to come back. They've decided we're going to be a little more patient with the secondary. We're going to add a little more firepower to the offense. But what I like seeing is at the trade deadline, and I wouldn't even mind Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent, you guys look, I wouldn't mind moving the trade deadline even back another week or 10 days, because I believe that the recent excitement, given that salary cap over $175 million now, and we have a lot of guys that are have different makeup as far as joining teams, as far as general managers, that are willing to take more chances now. That's why you're seeing more trades. That's why you're seeing the culture change in the NFL. I wouldn't mind seeing them move back, because now you can see week number 10, you would still be able to add. And we saw the excitement around the league the last 7 days. I think the league should look at potentially moving it back even another week or two.
Because it used to be week 6, now it's week 8. And you would have more teams knowing they're out of it and would say, you know what, it might make sense for us to be sellers. This has been the one thing the NFL, as far as the news cycle goes, has never been as exciting as basketball or baseball. The NBA and Major League Baseball trade deadlines are huge days where teams are remade. Up until recently, the NFL trade deadline, we would see it pass. I mean, I'm not talking about 30 years ago. I'm talking about 5 years ago, where maybe there was one significant trade. Yesterday was an exciting day in the league.
Well, as Coach would say, the fundamental differences between the league. In baseball and basketball, I can trade a guy today and he can play tonight on that team, because fundamentally they run a lot of the same things, and you can basically pick or plug and play them right now. In NFL, with the systems that we have, it's not as encouraged because it's going to take some downtime. And the season's only 16 games. So I believe that's one of the biggest differences. What do you think, Coach, as far as why things are a little bit different than any other era that we've seen?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. The idea of pushing it back and guys starting to understand where they are as a team, what they need. Other teams saying, okay, it's not going to work out for us this year. Maybe we can get this salary off the books for next year. We can start to some degree planning for the following season and change the shape of their organization as well. I'm totally in favor of pushing it back even further. As long as everybody has the same opportunity to do the same thing, why not give all these teams chances to acquire players or to move on from players even deeper in the season? I don't see the downside there.
Especially in a hard-capped league where you don't have to worry about, if you didn't have a hard cap, you'd have to worry about if you push it back, all of a sudden guys are going to just be essentially buying off players, trying to buy their way to a Super Bowl. That doesn't work in the NFL because of the way the cap is set up. And so, listen, I like the player movement. I understand some fans prefer the old days when a guy would be drafted by a team and stick with that team throughout his career. That's not the era we're in now. And I also applaud on the Detroit side, Matt Patricia and that organization being honest about where they are. Like, they could look at the standings and say, okay, we're one game back.
Yeah, I believe their personnel situation is a little bit different than some of these other places where they really have 3 younger receivers that need to play. And guys that have emerged. So I could see them because they're definitely moving off of Golden Tate.
Right.
So, yes, they did do the right. Matt Patricia didn't overreact, looked at his roster. Golden Tate is a viable asset. That's why he got that 3rd for him.
So what should this Eagles offense look like when Tate comes in and he's up and running and up to speed? What does this Eagles offense look like?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see because they do run a lot of 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. And that's
key. Yes.
They've done, that's been a core part of what they do. So it's hard for me to think that they're going to morph into an 11 team, which would be one tight end and 3 wide receivers. So how is he going to fit into that 12 personnel package? And look, maybe they will transition to more reps of 3 wideouts. I just like the fact that bringing Golden Tate gives them an opportunity to get better on 3rd down. And that was such a strength of theirs last year. And their inability to close out games, this gives them that chance. And it helps the defense, too. If they can stay on the field longer, it keeps that defense, on the bench longer as well.
I think Coach makes a great point as far as the 12 personnel. They spent high draft pick, Dallas Goedert. He's starting to emerge as a wide receiver. He's going to continue to be in the line. They're not going to take him off the field more. Golden Tate, just because the yards after catch him, because he plays in the slot, he's not a slot receiver. He is not Edelman. He is not Cole Beasley. He can play anywhere in the offense. So look at him and Alshon to play outside and play 2 tight ends and 1 running back. So great point by Coach, realizing the personnel and his fit, because Nelson Aguilar, his numbers are going to be affected by Golden Tate coming in.
You can get your 3 best pass catchers on the field without compromising what you like to do in that 12 personnel. You can have Ertz, Tate, and Alshon all on the field and still have your other tight end. You don't have to, because he doesn't have to play the slot like you were saying, like Edelman. But the other part of this is, for Philly this year, you mentioned what their biggest need was. Sometimes it's not what your biggest need is as much as it is where is a need where there is availability. You've talked about how the offensive line hasn't been as good this year as you would have liked in the past. The Texans, who also traded for a wide receiver, their biggest need is clearly offensive linemen. Guess what? Competent offensive linemen are not available to be had. Teams are overpaying for mediocre offensive linemen. They're not trading away good ones. Even teams that are rebuilding, you can't trade away a quality offensive lineman, even if you're rebuilding, get your quarterback killed. So what they did is they took, they're 21st in league in points. There's only been 1 game all year they scored more than 3 touchdowns. Like, they did need a jolt offensively. This gives them an opportunity to get it.
All right, Coach, stick around. Coming up, how much does Amari Cooper's production impact Dak Prescott's future in Dallas? That's next on First Things First.